Hi, Ethel. I hope you're all doing well. I'm back today with chapter 30 of Varjak Paw. It was Holly. Her spiky black and white fur burst into the front room. Varjak went to the door to meet her, flushed with victory. But there was a look in her mustard eyes, a look of horror that wiped the smile off his face the moment he saw it. Varjak, it's horrible, she said. We've got to get out of here. She looked up at the thick green windows, searching for a way out. What's horrible? Said Varjak, confused. It's the vanishings. This is where they've all gone. She shuddered. The man's not here, and I didn't see those black cats. But there's a room upstairs with a big cage in it, and hundreds of cats in it. Only lots of them aren't. She closed her eyes as if she was trying to block out the memory. Aren't what? He said, afraid of the answer. They're not alive. She looked more shaken than he'd ever seen her in the city. Sorry to interrupt you, Varjak, said Mother, but who is this? The Mesopotamian Blues were all watching, even Julius licking his wounds by the fireplace. Holly, this is my family, said Varjak. Mother, father, everyone, meet Holly. Don't worry, Holly said to them. We'll find a way out. Father frowned and turned to Varjak. I don't understand, he said. Do you know this cat? This is Holly, my friend from outside, who I told you about. Father looked disgusted. He turned his back on her. They all turned their backs. This is not outside, said Father. Tell this cat to leave us. It felt like a slap in the face. Varjak glanced at Holly. She looked as stunned as he felt. How could you even think of it? Whispered Mother. You should know better than this, sweetheart. Didn't you hear? Protested Varjak. She's going to help us get out. But we don't want to get out, said Mother. Where would we go? Who would feed us? Wait a minute, said Holly. Have you seen what's happening upstairs? If you're being fed, it's not for a good reason. Father ignored her. He spoke just to Varjak. We haven't been upstairs because of the black cats, but we know there are other cats up there too. You do? Said Varjak. The gentleman brings them to the house, said Father. He feeds them. Not like he feeds us, not with caviar, but cheap dry food. There are sacks of it in the kitchen. He keeps them alive until, well, we don't know exactly what happens next, but we all agree that the gentleman would never harm one of us. You're wrong, said Holly. If it's them today, it will be you tomorrow. We're different, Father said to Varjak. We're special. We're Mesopotamian Blues. As for those common cats, he shrugged. Who cares what he does to them? They're nothing. What? Said Holly, ears and whiskers bristling. Less than nothing, said Aunt Junie, as if Holly wasn't there. Come on, Varjak, let's go, said Holly. These idiots deserve everything they've got coming. Her words made Varjak shiver. He didn't know what to do or say. He looked at Mother. We know what we're talking about, sweetheart, she said in a gentle, reasonable voice. We're not going anywhere. His head was spinning. Maybe they were right and Holly was wrong. The gentleman hadn't harmed them yet. Perhaps he never would. But what about Holly? Said Varjak. She's not one of us, insisted Father. Varjak looked at Holly. He looked at his family. There was a twisting, tearing feeling in his guts. He looked at Holly, the family, and Holly again. His insides were being ripped in half. It was impossible. We need you here, said Jasmine. You need me, said Varjak. Father nodded, very serious. Of course we need you, son. You're head of the family now. You can't just leave us. You beat Julius, said Jay. Julius was terrible, said Jethro. But you're the best, Varjak, said Jerome. Varjak felt proud inside, proud to be a Blue. Creak! It was the front door opening. Click, clack! The gentleman entering the house. Two sleek black cats by his shoes. Come on, urged Holly. Now! She cut towards the corridor. Varjak couldn't move. His mouth felt numb like ice. He wanted to go with her, but how could he? He finally had what he always wanted. He was a proper Mesopotamian blue at last. He couldn't ruin it. He couldn't walk away now. Holly stopped on the edge of the front room. She glanced back at him. He looked away. Shame pricked his eyes, made him blind. He couldn't meet her mustard gaze. Holly, Varjak, what's wrong? I can't. He felt it at once, her invisible barrier going up, coming between them. And he knew why. Because he'd done exactly what she'd always feared her friends would do. He'd let her down at the very moment when she was trying to help. But what else could he do? I'm the worst friend in the world, he whispered. Stop, she said. Don't say another word. Varjak watched, frozen to the spot, as Holly bolted like she'd been burned, bolted away from him and towards the front door. The gentleman's cats were ready for her. In a blur of blackness, moving as one, they blocked her and flung her to the floor. Varjak's awareness spun into action, taking in their smooth, sleek power, their deadly speed. He'd seen everything in the city, even the fearsome Sally Bones, but these black cats were still something else. The way they moved together so perfectly, their identical eyes, they were more like machines than anything alive. They had Holly trapped on the ground. His heart screamed at the sight, but how could he fight them, both on their own? On his own. They'd destroy him, like they'd destroyed the Elder Paw. He turned to the family for help, but they turned away. No one could look at him. The gentleman closed the front door. He stooped down to touch one of the black cat's collars and whispered something in its ear. It left Holly with the other black cats and marched up to the front room, where it stood blocking the way out. It stared at Varjak and the family with its black eyes. As its gaze fell on him, Varjak's awareness quickened with a strange cold sensation. He took a step towards the black cat. Immediately it pushed him back. Varjak's hackles rose. Don't, son, said father. You're bringing us into danger. Just let them do what they want, said mother, and they won't hurt us. Varjak's mind was raging. After all they'd been through together, he'd let Holly down. He'd brought her here. He'd cost her the few moments in which she might have escaped. And now he couldn't even help her because that would harm his family, and there was no way he could do that. He wanted to be a blue. He was a blue. He belonged with them, not her. Them. He looked on, powerless, as the other black cat dragged Holly up the stairs. She went without a struggle. There was no fight left in her. Varjak watched, silent, unable to move. The last thing he saw was the tip of her tail vanishing from view. It was like watching his own heart being torn out. She was gone. The gentleman went upstairs after her. The black cat who'd been guarding them followed at last, leaving Varjak alone with the family again. That's my son, said father. I knew you'd do the right thing, said mother. What an ugly little cat she was, said cousin Jasmine. Her voice sounded like milk, sour milk. And that's the end of chapter 30. I will see you next week for chapter 31. Bye.